Thank you for taking time to view the Housing Tax Credits Qualified Allocation Plan updates to the 2023 4% only Housing Tax Credit Funding Round. Throughout this presentation, Housing Tax Credits will be referred to as HTC. The Qualified Allocation Plan will be referred to as the QAP. Minnesota Housing collaborates with individuals, communities, and partners to create, preserve, and finance housing that is safe, decent, and affordable to help build stronger communities across the state. Minnesota Housing is currently operating under a 2-year 2022-2023 QAP. This presentation serves as an addendum to the previous webinar for the 2022 4% only HTC funding round, which can be found on our website at www.mnhousing.gov. Unless otherwise noted in this PowerPoint presentation, information in the previous webinar is also applicable to the 2023 round. Specific changes to the 2023 4% only HTC funding round include an update on how to submit scoring information for the optional pre-application, resources to building standards that apply to projects for the 2023 4% only HTC funding round, and new documentation requirements for parking construction costs that are excluded from eligible basis. Minnesota Housing offers an optional but highly recommended pre-application process for developers to understand whether their project is meeting the minimum 40-point scoring requirement of the QAP. The pre-application is prior to submitting an application for bonds to Minnesota Management and Budget, MMB. The required submittals for this determination include a completed workbook, scoring backup documentation, and new this year, instead of applicants generating their own score sheet, they can now submit a test version of the self-scoring worksheet directly from the online scoring wizard in the multifamily customer portal. Use the PDF print function to submit the score sheet in the pre-application checklist. The scoring wizard allows for 2 options, test scenario and final version. Be sure to choose test scenario when submitting a pre-application. The final version option is used only when the self-scoring worksheet is submitted after the project receives bonds from MMB. Projects awarded 2023 4% only HTCs must adhere to the new 2022 building standards. A full summary of the standards and changes from last year are summarized in the linked April 2022 e-news. Note that the linked e-news can also be found on the Building Standards webpage at www.mnhousing.gov/sites/multifamily/building standards. The April 2022 e-news includes updates to the 2022 multifamily rental design and construction standards and the 2022 version of the Minnesota overlay to the 2020 Enterprise Green Communities criteria. If you have any questions related to building standards, click the link to find the name and contact information of the Minnesota housing architect who works in your region. For projects that exclude parking construction costs from eligible basis and charge residents a parking fee, applications must include documentation from the contractor or comparable entity detailing the cost of constructing the parking. This documentation must be signed and dated by the contractor and be on the contractor's letterhead. And documentation from a certified public accountant, CPA, not employed by the developer or sponsor, certifying that the parking costs are excluded from eligible basis and that the excluded costs attributed to the parking are accurate and in line with the requirements of the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. The documentation must be signed and dated by the CPA and be on the CPA's letterhead, and any supporting documentation used to complete the certification must be included. For more information or questions related to the 4% only Housing Tax Credit Program, contact William Price, Bond Program Manager, at william.price@state.mn.us or 651-296-9440.